Welcome, you asswipes, to TP For Your Earholes. My name is Charlynn Schmidt, and with me is...
Patrick Schmidt. We have the same last name, just in case you missed that.
Today we are talking about how the formula of storytelling with Beavis and Butthead episodes changed with the new stuff. We're doing it. We're finally talking about the new stuff. If you've been waiting for us to get here, this episode is for you. Thanks for sticking around. But before we get into that, Patrick, can you tell folks where they can connect with us?
There's actually several places you can do that. The primary ones are Blue Sky and Instagram. We are on both of those platforms at TP For Your Earholes. So reach out there to keep up with what we're doing and to hear our latest updates and to just basically have a place to conversate with us once these episodes come out.
Yeah, we would love to hear from you. So, to get things started, let's break down what exactly we're talking about when we say the new episodes. Because let's face it, Beavis and Butthead has restarted a couple of times now.
Mhm.
So, if you would please kick us off and clarify what we mean.
If you really understand this all, you can skip ahead the next minute. If you are a noob, the initial run of the show was from 1993 to 1997, and that was 7 seasons. So 5 years, 7 seasons. Season 8 came out at the end of 2011. Season 9 and 10 have come out in 2022 and 2023, respectively. Seasons 9 and 10 came out on Paramount Plus, and as of today, as of this recording, we haven't had a season 11 come out yet.
Yet, but we do know that there is what I consider to be the third season of the 2020s Beavis and Butthead coming. We do not know when. We know it'll be on Comedy Central, but that's all we know.
And really, what we're getting into today is just talking about how, with these three most recent seasons, the format of the cartoon has changed actually quite a bit. And it's still the Beavis and Butthead we know and love, but with some very slight differences. And I say it's completely changed, slight differences. The truth is somewhere in the middle of those two extremes.
Yes, I would say so. I was about to say, sir, disagree.
Yes.
But then you corrected yourself, and here we are. And yes, it is the same old Beavis and Butthead that we do know and love, but it is a little different. And one of the biggest differences, I would say, is in the episode length.
Yeah. And the original run episodes, once you cut out the music videos, commercials, most of those episodes, if you're lucky, run about 6 to 7 minutes. Some are shorter than like 4 minutes. It's not a lot of time.
No.
And one of the big critiques of the early run was that it was kind of one note humor.
Well, when you have 4 to 6 minutes, how much further can you get?
Exactly. And so I think it's a feature, not a bug of those early episodes, but you do end up with some pretty simplified storytelling. The world building is not as complete as it could be. And you end up with a lot of like single premise episodes. And I think it was Chris Brown talked about this on the Beavis and Butthead DVD.
Taint of Greatness?
Yeah, Taint of Greatness. Thank you. Where a lot of episode ideas for this series are Beavis and Butthead do blank. And it's a normal thing for people to do, but it's just Beavis and Butthead doing it that makes it funny.
Right, because the way they're going to do it is not quite right.
Mm-hmm. And that ended up, I think, like say, being part of the appeal of the early run, but I think it kind of loses steam after a while. And with seasons 8, 9, and 10, I think that formula has really changed. I mean, do you agree with that? Like, what are things you're seeing?
Yeah, it's so interesting that I would say the episodes have gotten longer and built with greater detail in the 2010s and 2020s, where we complain all the time about having shorter attention spans, and yet, compared to those older episodes, especially the early ones, it really is one note. But here, they give the stories more time to develop, and you have definitely a more complex story in general. But then also more threads are brought into any given single episode. So there's more going on. You've got a lot more than just that one joke, just that one build up to maybe the funny haha ending. And there's all sorts of little moments tied to a bigger story that I would say is more entertaining. Like, I'm a fan of it. Are you?
Yeah, I really like the new seasons, the new series, the new whatever you want to call it, the reboots. I think it's grown. I think it's matured as far as how it's telling the stories. Now, the stories themselves, a little bit more complex, and that's cool. You get a few more minutes, you can do that. And one of the things I think is really cool is in the reboots, you're seeing a lot more episodes that can carry a full half hour all on their own.
Totally.
And like I know there were some two-part episodes in the original series. That was great, but they were really rare. And even then, they were not always the greatest as far as thought out storylines.
Hmm.
These seem much more purposeful, much more well thought out, and things like, I know we've watched season 8 a lot, but tech support with our friend Hamid
Yeah.
and Holy Cornholio, where Beavis starts a cult, or
Becomes the cult leader, basically.
I mean, you can fill an entire half hour with that, and that's pretty cool. And to go back to 1993 and tell people there's going to be half hour episodes of Beavis and Butthead in 2011, I don't know that people would believe you.
Well, I think you're going to have one of two reactions. One is, no way. And then the two, the person's eyes are rolling so far into the back of their head, they've gotten lost. So I think another thing that you can do with more complex storytelling, generally speaking, is you can also make more and better callbacks to what might be Beavis and Butthead lore, because there is a more world building.
Yes.
So, like for instance, the very first video they critiqued in the 2011 season was MGMT's Kids. Starts with the repeated use of the word fire, which we have already discussed in a previous episode of this show. And then also in season 9, Beavis and Fire get a whole episode to themselves. It's kind of a running joke now. And I love that.
Yeah. And when you expand the world a little bit, you have those opportunities. And I feel like the world is bigger now. Like the Beavis and Butthead world is bigger now. And that makes for more interesting storytelling and more complex storytelling. And the fact that they have a couple extra minutes to work with really can be much, much bigger than maybe we thought it could be.
Right. Well, and speaking of things that have gotten bigger and better, how about the animation itself? Because it is Beavis and Butthead, but it's also very different.
Very different. And we've talked about on the podcast before how part of the appeal of the original run was how crude the animation was. Well, now I think we've gone the other direction, that part of the appeal of the new series is how beautiful it looks. I mean, it looks like they actually have an art director.
They probably do. We should look at the credits.
Right? But there were two phases in that first run, right? There was the really early stuff that looked like a junkie did it. And then the middle and the end of Beavis and Butthead's original run, which is the stuff I think most people really remember and the stuff that we know and love, the two of us for sure.
Hmm.
But the animation had to take a huge step up when they made Beavis and Butthead Do America, right? The movie that came out.
Yes.
And I remember my judge talking about this on Taint of Greatness, where it was like they tried to display just episodes as they were being built in the 90s and tried to display them on a movie screen. It didn't work. The animation had to be better for the movie, for the big screen. And that look is what we're seeing in the reboot episodes, I think.
For sure that, but then also in the episodes that followed, there's just a little more consistency to the look because before the movie, Mike Judge did not have a color palette in place for Beavis and Butthead animation designers. That's a standard practice thing, maybe not back then, but certainly for a high budget production like a movie, you have to have that. So it threw him for a loop when he had to decide what's that going to be? And little things like that not only paved the way for the Beavis and Butthead we have now, but it made that cleaner, more refined, more consistent look. And that is a good thing. Those little details are just a massive quality improvement that you might not notice it if you're not looking for it, but it matters.
And something I just thought about while you were talking about that was part of the fun of that is being there in the beginning and seeing it get better and better and better, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And when you feel like you're emotionally invested in seeing it get better and better and better, it doesn't really jar you as much when there's these big sort of stylistic changes to the show because you're seeing it get better. You're not seeing it worse. You're seeing it get better. The challenge is, can you maintain the attitude of screw it all, I'm just going to go make a cartoon when you have this refinement? But I think when you look back at seasons 8, 9, and 10, it's definitely the Do America style, right? They took that style and started applying it to single episodes.
For sure.
And I think that's a reflection of maturity and evolution and all those things we were just talking about. But I think it's also a reflection of the technology. The technology's better now, was better in 2011 than it was in 91, 92 when Mike Judge is drawing frog baseball by hand. And I think that it speaks to a lot of different ways in which a show has to grow or it's gonna die. And they grew, and I appreciate that.
The evolution reminds me a lot of South Park and what that show has gone through over the years because they
Mm-hmm.
started off with like little cardboard pieces and doing that show by hand every single day. And the things that you can do with computer animation are so incredibly different. It does create, yes, the cleaner look, but there's also, I've noticed a more attention to detail, especially in seasons 9 and 10 on Paramount Plus. And it's not that it's a different style. This is still very distinctly Beavis and Butthead, but there's things like you can see foreground and background, things that just didn't really, maybe not even occur to anybody for an animated show in the same way that you can now. And the computer animation just makes it look really, really nice.
And we briefly touched on technology, but one of the big things to remember is back in the 90s, we were watching these on small CRT televisions. We were watching
True.
MTV. If you had a 27-inch television, you were living the high life.
It's true.
And
That was big.
that was big. I guess I remember 1996, we got a 27-inch TV, barely fit in our 80s entertainment center. And I felt so special to have that TV in my house. And now, with flat screens and digital displays, like 27 inches is about the smallest you can buy.
For real.
So you have more pixels to fill. You got to have a show that matches that technology.
And the screen resolution has also changed. We
Yeah.
went from a nice little square to 16 by 9. And so
Mhm.
you have more to work with.
Yeah, higher resolution and more space. It's a hell of a thing to work with if you're jumping from drawing things by hand. And I'm glad Beavis and Butthead have had a couple decades to figure it out because I think the end product over the reboots has been really, really, really good.
I agree.
So, a third way that we've really noticed changes in the reboot is we are seeing these characters behave differently than they did before. There's a big difference. I don't know a big difference or a little difference, but there's a difference between the way Beavis and Butthead act in the first 7 seasons and the way they act in 8, 9, and 10. And the fact that the episodes are longer, you do get to see them actually maybe evolve and progress in thought a little bit. I don't think they grow, but maybe
No.
they learn a little more. For example, I'm going to throw out one of my favorite episodes from season 8, which is the 2011 reboot, which is Whorehouse.
Oh, yeah. Whores.
Fornicators. Beavis and Butthead join the protest at the abortion clinic for all the wrong reasons. You get to the end of that episode, and it does feel like they've learned something, but it doesn't change what they want to do with that, as opposed to the original run episodes where they just wouldn't learn anything.
You know, I might agree with you with the 2011 season that they take things a step further, even though they don't grow. But I'm gonna disagree with you. I think maybe for seasons 9 and 10, but a little bit more on that thought. down the road here.
Yeah, because we wanted to talk about the tension that is always present in the show, which is, are they sociopaths or are they just dumb? And I think in the later seasons of the original run, it's clear that they're more dumb than sociopathic, or they're somehow just victims of circumstance that they can't get out of. And you don't see a lot of sociopathic tendencies maybe showing up as much in the new run. But I also think that makes the show more enjoyable because you don't feel guilty either, one, rooting for him, or two, laughing, because it comes from a place of how stupid it is, as opposed to somebody actually wanting to see harm brought to somebody else in like a retributive way.
You know what? Mm-mm. No, I have got to hard disagree with you here.
Okay.
Okay. I think that seasons 9 and 10 have brought back some of the sociopathic tendencies, especially to Butthead. I get the sense that he cares even less about what happens to Beavis and other people, even more than he did in the original run. And we're talking like frog baseball days, the early,
Mm-hmm.
early stuff. And then now we also have old Butthead. So he, in the episode where Stuart donates a kidney, I think the sociopathic, I don't care about anybody or their feelings is very present. They say as much. So, okay, audience, who is right here? Am I the only one that feels this way? I'd love to know what you all think. Or is there some sort of something in between here, between our two viewpoints here? Character wise, another thing that I've noticed in the storytelling aspect, especially of early season 9, is that the writers made Beavis and Butthead incredibly dumb, even for them, to make a
Mm-hmm.
story work. So, a couple of examples, like when
Sure.
Beavis and Butthead try on what they think are the VR glasses, but they're just sunglasses. They immediately accept that the game they're playing is the exact setting as where they were beforehand in the mall.
True. That's not a sign of high intelligence.
You think they would figure that out? Even them, even them. So you have to just go with it to make that story work. Another example is the escape room episode. And rather than like thinking they took a wrong turn and entered the bathroom, they think the escape room looks like a bathroom when they know very well what a bathroom looks like.
Yeah. Well, you would hope. You would hope these two pee and poop obsessed teens would know what a bathroom looks like.
We know they do. But here's the thing. Does it work? Yeah, it's funny. It is a little different, but it is not completely out of bounds for Beavis and Butthead just because they never have been smart guys. It's just, I do think that is taken a little bit further than in previous incarnations of the show. However, I think by mid-season 9 and definitely by season 10, they have found their groove. And they return more to the story roots of stupid things happening to Beavis and Butthead because they're, well, stupid.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree with that for sure, that there's that line of stupidity that you do have to suspend some belief, right? Watching the show, it's like, no one would do that. Well, these two would. But at the same time, there's less of that in season 10.
Yeah, yeah. They figured it out. They hit their stride.
So you mentioned old Butthead. This
Yeah.
is another big change in seasons 9 and 10, especially, is we get different iterations of Beavis and Butthead. We don't just have them being teens. And that's always the big question that fans have every time there's a new reboot is, are Beavis and Butthead going to still be teenagers or are they going to be something else?
Hmm.
What's the situation going to be? Well, we got that answer. And there's definitely reasons to keep them as teenagers and act like their world hasn't changed. But who doesn't want to know what Beavis and Butthead might look like as middle-aged guys? I think that's fun. That was always
Yeah.
one of the big questions that people had or fans had watching the show, especially after it got canceled. I shouldn't say it got canceled. After Mike Judge decided to stop making the show, that, what are they going to look like? What are their adult versions going to be? And we get a little peek of that in seasons 9 and 10. And we also get a peek at Smart Beavis and Smart Butthead.
Yeah. Thank you, Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe, because that's what brought this all about. I am absolutely for it because Why not all of the above and then some?
I think it's been a real kind of like avenue for opening up the storytelling too. And you're able to tell more stories about a pair of 40-year-olds versus just a pair of teenagers. And that's been, I think, really fun to explore.
Yes. And especially as you and I have both been steadily settling into middle age, it's fun to see old Beavis and old Butthead. My big question is did they ever score?
That's a good question. I don't know that we'll ever get the answer to that one.
Probably not. We can't keep going with this episode too much longer without mentioning what might be the most stark contrast between the classic Beavis and Butthead and the newer seasons, and that is maybe not completely in lieu of music videos, but we have the incorporation of other things with music videos. So, for instance, in 2011, we had a lot of Jersey Shore, 16 and Pregnant, True Life. These were big shows on MTV at the time. And then in seasons 9 and 10, you get a lot more YouTube videos and TikTok videos. What do you think about this? Do you like this change?
I think it makes a lot of sense. They're watching and reacting to what's in their culture. So if they only stayed reacting to music videos, that wouldn't be a true reflection of what do teens ingest in their daily media lives, you know? So I think the fact that they're mixing those in really does make a lot of sense. It's also understandable because given how difficult it was to get the rights to the music and the music videos that they used in the original run, that's a big reason why the original run has, like, the full original run has never come out on any sort of like physical media, is getting the rights to that stuff. I mean, I can't even imagine hundreds and hundreds of different contracts you'd have to figure out. It's a logistical nightmare.
Yes. And if I may interrupt you real quick,
Please.
only in the most recent couple of years or so have we seen episodes complete with the music videos that aired alongside them in the 90s. It took that long.
It also reflects this change in our society, and it's easier to make reality television than it is to make scripted television.
Unfortunately, yes.
It's easier to make reaction videos and, dare I say, podcast reactions, but the barrier to entry is a lot lower. And consequently, it's probably a lot easier to get the rights to share those things in all mediums in perpetuity, which is sort of the contract language.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's probably a lot easier to deal with, say, some YouTube star's agent as opposed to a whole company, whoever owns the rights to whatever catalog for the music band who had the video, blah, 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 blah. Now, you mentioned that they are reacting to what is relevant at the time. Isn't it interesting that we have in the 90s music videos? Because that was still kind of a thing on MTV, despite the fact that they did have some reality programming at the time. By 2011, that had pretty much taken over. There's hardly any music videos. It is all reality programming. And then by the 2020s, what are we all doing? We are watching YouTube and TikTok.
Yeah, who comes home and turns on MTV anymore? Like, that just doesn't happen like used to in the 90s.
No, what even is on MTV anymore? I haven't checked in years.
Ridiculousness.
Still?
I don't know if still.
I mean,
I know that was a meme for a long time.
last time I checked MTV, it was just endless reruns of ridiculousness. And if that's what they're still doing, they don't deserve anybody to watch them.
So here's my big question for you. As a big fan of the show in the 90s, do you like the new incarnation? And I think I know the answer based on the conversation that we've just had for the last few minutes, but is this something you like? And if there are people out there who have only watched the original run and haven't watched the reboots, what do you think they should do?
Absolutely watch it. Yes, as a longtime fan, I adore the fact that in the 2020s, we are still getting and will get more adventures in stupidity with our favorite dumbasses, Beavis and Butthead. I was totally stoked when the 2011 season came out. I was bummed when that was it, but was grateful for that. And however much we get now, as this new incarnation of the 2020s runs its course, however much we get, I am thrilled with it. Beavis and Butthead's a happy place for me. It's comfort food, and it gives me a laugh. It helps me forget about the problems of the day just for a little while, and I'm grateful for that, especially given that I'm questionably a responsible adult living in a fairly turbulent time and place, societally and politically. Any kind of escapism is welcome. So, if you have not given the newer stuff a chance, I strongly recommend it because it is good.
And I do want to close the episode with an idea about the 2011 reboot. We were we were in our fourth year marriage at that time. And we were incredibly excited to watch this new reboot come out. And the fall of 2011 was a really challenging time for us personally. I was working a temp job. You were working a job that you had quit and had to come back to. We were living in this cold, drafty one-bedroom apartment. It was, I was between careers. It was a tough time.
We were trying to get things figured out, is what was happening.
We really were. But yet we had this thing that we were so excited for that really, I think, carried us through kind of mentally, emotionally, at least a little bit for that time. And I do think there's a soft spot in my heart for that 2011 reboot because of that. And it's also kept me excited about watching these other new episodes come out in the last couple of years, because any new Beavis and Butthead is better than no new Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, they are still on top of their game. They're still killing it, still making quality stuff on characters in a setting that we know and love and are endeared to so much.
So I think that's it for us this week. We want to thank all you fart knockers out there for joining us. Really, really appreciate you being here. But there's other places you can be here with us. Shar, where are those?
Go on to Blue Sky, go on to Instagram or Facebook. Our handle is TP For Your Earholes. That's where you can find us, or just go to the old website, tpforyourearholes.com, and that's where you'll find the podcast. That's where you'll find the links to the socials, blah, 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 a contact form that you can fill out and send us a message. We would love it if you would do that. But in the meantime, next week, we've got another list coming up, and we're not just going to go for 5 this time. We're going to go for 10.
Yes.
Because it's going to be the 10 little things or moments that make us laugh. And I cannot wait. This is a topic that I've been itching to discuss. So stay tuned for that. We'll see you next time.